Hi, y'all. Welcome. We're going to get started. This is the public meeting for the Cub River Watershed EA project. We're happy that you could be here. My name is Eleanor Chambers. I'm going to be acting as the moderator for this meeting. Thank you for your patience as we adjust to this digital format. This meeting is being recorded, and it's going to be posted on the Franson Civil website within 24 hours of this ending. So that way, if you do face any technical difficulties, it will be there for you to watch later. It will also be made available on the NRCS website. And then if we seem a little bit slow on your end, we recommend closing out of other background programs that you may have running on your computer. The more, the better. And hopefully everything goes well. We're going to have a time for you to ask questions at the end of this. We're going to do our presentation. We're going to let you know how you can submit formal comments, and we're going to also give you some Q&A time to talk to our team. We are going to, in order to minimize tech hiccups and problems and stuff like that, we're going to ask that you participate in this meeting via the chat. On the right-hand side of your screen, there's going to be a little chat box where you can type your comments, hit enter. I, as the moderator, will see those, and I'm going to make a note of them. So feel free to ask questions at any point during the presentation. I'm going to make a note of them, and then when we get to the Q&A section, we'll shoot those at our team members. Please be courteous. Please be kind. Anybody who displays any inappropriate behavior will be kicked out of the meeting. I'm sure we won't have to worry about that. I trust y'all. So we're going to get started. Let's talk agenda. First, we're going to start out with team introductions, and then we're going to do the sort of overview of the NRCS program as a whole. Then we're going to start going into the specifics of this project. We're going to talk about the need and where this is all taking place and the benefits of this project. And then we're going to talk about the NEPA process. Our NEPA specialist, Monique, is going to be talking about that. And then we're going to be talking about ways you can be involved, like submitting formal comments, which that period starts today. And then we'll do our Q&A section. So I'm going to turn the time over to Chad, and Chad is going to do our team introductions. Go ahead, Chad.
Okay. Thank you, Eleanor. Appreciate all those in attendance with us this evening. Appreciate your interest in this project and your willingness to set aside some time this evening to learn a little bit more about the project. So want to do a quick introduction here. Bruce Sandoval, will have an opportunity to hear from him in just a few minutes, is the lead for the NRCS. The NRCS is the funding agency for this project, and they are the lead agency. And we appreciate Bruce being with us this evening and his team and all that he does to support us and help us out with this project. We also would like to thank Franklin County. Dirk Bowles is with us this evening. He is the lead contact for Franklin County on this project, and we really appreciate Franklin County taking the lead and meeting the requirements that are outlined in the funding, this funding program. There are specific guidelines of what a agency does and the requirements that they have to meet. And so we appreciate Franklin County being the lead sponsor on our project. We'd also like to thank Cache Water District, who is a co-sponsor of the project. Nathan Dowgs, I see, is on the call with us this evening as well. And then Cub River Irrigation Company, Chris Cairn, the company president, is with us this evening also. We also appreciate the other co-sponsors. They're not necessarily listed here due to space, but there are others that have helped us get to this point and will continue to coordinate with moving forward, and we appreciate them. All of the drainage districts in the project area, Cache County, and others. The city of Lewiston, Utah also has been involved in helping us get to this point and will continue to work with us moving forward. So we appreciate the project sponsors and all that they do. My name is Chad Brown. I'm the project manager. I'm with Franson Civil Engineers, and we have Monique Robbins with Franson Civil Engineers also on the call with us. We'll hear from her a little bit later as she talks about the NEPA process and the guidelines and requirements that we need to meet through this project. And so we'll go ahead and turn the time over to Bruce for a couple of minutes to let him talk about the PL 566 funding specifically and the guidelines of this program. Bruce, are you there?
Bruce, what you're going to do is on next to the chat, but just left of it, there's going to be that hand in the bottom corner. You're going to click on that, click on speak, and then click request to speak. And then I'm going to bring you up on this screen. There you are. Okay, can you hear us? Let's see. Is your mic on? Bruce, go ahead and click request to speak again. Hopefully he's still with us.
It does show that he's still in attendance. So
yeah.
Okay. Maybe what we'll do is we'll do a little improvising here.
Sure.
I can step in and help cover Bruce's slides here. If you don't mind, Eleanor, if you'd go to the next slide.
Yes. Bruce can also maybe call you and you can just hold the phone up to your speaker. That might also be an option.
Okay.
So whatever you would like to do.
I think we're okay. We'll, if he's able to join us here in a minute, that'd be fine. So a little bit of an overview of this specific funding, this watershed protection and flood prevention program that the NRCS has. It is a federal program to help state, local, and tribal governments. And so, as I mentioned before, thanking our sponsors, there are specific requirements that our sponsors have to meet, and so those are outlined by this funding and by the NRCS and the Department of Agriculture. And so this program is funded through Public Law 83-566, commonly known, or what we refer to as PL 566. And so what that funding is intended to do, in the phase that we are currently in, is in the planning phase. There are two additional phases that will come in the future. Once we get to the planning, we'll then move into design and eventually into construction if we're able to work through those and continue to receive funding for the project. And so I just want to make clear that this evening is we are starting the planning phase of this project. There's many discussions, conversations, looking at different options, alternatives, those types of things. And that will all be considered as we move forward and continue to receive comments from the public. And so just kind of want to outline that the funding for the project, or the purposes that the NRCS projects are listed there: flood prevention, watershed protection, public recreation, public fish and wildlife, agricultural water management, municipal and industrial water supply, and water quality management. And so not every project obviously is going to meet all of those criteria, but certainly a project that is funded through this program must meet at least one of those. And this project that we're introducing and talking about tonight actually meets several of those. Next slide, please. So again, kind of just program overview. This project must meet the NEPA process as laid out by the federal government. That basically means that we have to make sure that there are no adverse environmental impacts that this project would have. And so we will be looking at all of the different aspects of the project, identifying impacts. We'll be looking into those, mitigating, and going through that process. And so that's basically what is happening now. Again, I've briefly mentioned the PL 566 funding. Other requirements of the project is the PRG. That's just additional, very specific guidelines that these projects have to meet from an environmental standpoint. And so what we have to do now is basically make sure that we're meeting those requirements, that we're documenting what we're doing, what we're planning, the decision-making process. Part of that process is this meeting, seeking input from the public and seeking their concerns, their interest, ideas. And so that's the process. Now, the final product of this project will be, we're hoping, is a watershed plan EA. If we're not able to come to an EA and there are additional mitigation efforts, additional efforts that must be made from an environmental standpoint, then it may go to an environmental impact statement, or EIS, which is additional study and so forth. And so very, very specific, very defined process that we work through as we go through this. Next slide. So again, funding for this project is through the Department of Agriculture, as I mentioned before, specifically through the NRCS. And the project to this point is fully funded to work through the environmental process and to develop this watershed plan EA. Next slide. So I have met with several of you and the different sponsors, co-sponsors throughout this, and through those conversations, many purposes and needs were identified through those conversations. And it became very obvious very quickly that one of the major concerns by all the sponsors was the flooding and the flood damage that was occurring within the project area. And in a minute, the next slide, I'll show you a map and we'll kind of talk about some of those details. But it became very obvious that the flooding that is occurring is a major concern. And so a major purpose of this project is to alleviate and minimize that flooding that is taking place, which also is one of the purposes of the funding. We've also, in conversations and discussions, identified that additional measures for water, agricultural water management, things that we can do to improve the delivery and distribution of agricultural water to the end users. In conversations with the county specifically, they would like to see if there's a way that we can have some benefit of recreation, public recreation. We're looking at different options. We think we have some ideas that we could incorporate in the project to provide the public access to the Bear River for fishing, paddleboarding, canoeing, any kind of recreation activity that might occur on the Bear River. And so we're looking and considering those, and certainly would welcome any thoughts or comments that this project could bring as far as recreation. And then in combination with that is also access for public fish and wildlife. And I'll talk about an idea or concept that is being considered and will continue to be looked at during the project, and potentially leaving water in the Bear River for roughly 7 to 8 miles of stretch of river, and then essentially pulling that volume of water further out of the Bear River, further into the system, and basically leaving more water in the river for that stretch of 7 to 8 miles. Next slide. So I'm going to switch over here for just a minute, and so that I can show you, and we could be a little more interactive here on this map that I've got. So hopefully you can see that now. So this is the project area. The project has there are requirements of total acreage that can be within a project. And so for this project, this is how we have defined our project boundary. This is in southern Idaho, northern Utah, in Franklin and County, Idaho, and Cache County, Utah. And so this is the Bear River here on the west side of the kind of the project boundaries. And then on the east side, the Cub River kind of defines that. So as we look at this area in the springtime, we have a lot of obviously snow melt and runoff that comes and either collects into the existing open canals of the Cub River Irrigation Company. That's what you see in the yellow. This is what they refer to as the lower canal. And then, excuse me, let me go back. Not sure what happened there. Sorry about that. And then this yellow line is what's referred to as the pump canal. And so those waters will come, collect, basically concentrated and add or increase the flood damage and flooding that is occurring already on some of these fields. That flood water comes into Lewiston. We'll look at that here in just a minute. But there's quite a bit of flood damage that occurs in the springtime. Some of what happens, and one of the ideas that is being considered is, what can we do to better manage the irrigation water to help reduce the saturation of the soil profile to allow for that runoff to seep into the ground in the springtime and not run off, concentrate, and cause damage. The red dots are areas that we have been looking at and considering. Are there ideas or things that we could do to improve the pumping, improve the agricultural water distribution and systems? And so those are some areas that are being looked at and considered. The blue dots are areas that were identified in conversations with the drainage districts of areas that seem to have more floodwaters concentrated in those areas. What could be done to improve that and go, alleviate some of that damage that is taking place? So this is a zoomed in map of what we were just looking at before. Again, the Bear River here on the left, or the west side, and the Cub River on the east. And so this is the main canal. And what I was mentioning before was one idea that is being considered at this point is maybe pumping less water from the existing Cub River pump station here and leaving that water in the Bear River and bringing it down that stretch of river somewhere to what's referred to as the southwest Lewiston service area of the Cub River Irrigation Company. Looking at putting a new pump station on the Bear River, in this area, and pumping that water and servicing the southwest Lewiston service area, and looking at what can be done to better use the water. Looking at piping existing canals, which eliminates the seepage, which is adding to the flood runoff. How can we better utilize and manage the water in the southwest area of the Cub River service area? The last map I wanted to talk about here just briefly is kind of zoomed in on the downtown area of Lewiston here. And in conversations with Lewiston City and Mayor Field, discussions have been had of what could we do to help minimize or alleviate the flooding that they see regularly in town. Some of the ideas that are considered at this point is, can we pipe or can we convey that water to the east, to the Cub River? Can we make improvements to the south, to get at the Cub River, or even to the west, either installing new infrastructure, improving existing infrastructure that's already there? But what can be done to move that flood water out of the Lewiston area and get it away from homes and property and alleviate some of that flooding. Eleanor, I'll let you kind of switch over if we can there.
Yeah, well, really quick, Jake Sirigo, apologize if I mispronounced your name, was wondering what the green lines meant on the map. He may have been referring to the second map.
Let me go back up. So these green lines here, I think, is maybe what he's referring to, and I believe they even show up on this map. These are, I apologize, I don't remember what the acronym stands for, but they're referred to as HUCs. And the USGS, United States Geological Survey, has identified different watersheds. And so the light green lines identify the different smaller watersheds or basins within our service area. And so that's what those are, is basically commonly accepted or identified smaller watersheds or basins within our project.
Perfect.
Do you mind going to the next slide there, Eleanor?
If you would like to, I can also take over.
Okay. Let's see. Let me make sure I get back here. Sorry about that. So there we go. So, through the process of looking at the purpose and needs, looking at alternatives, brainstorming, having these conversations with all the different sponsors, co-sponsors, the general public, we really, see several benefits coming from this project as listed here. Improving the agricultural water management, increasing public safety by reducing the flooding that is occurring, providing recreational opportunities, which is certainly a purpose of this funding and something that we want to look at. I know that the sponsors are interested in doing that, and we want to incorporate those opportunities within our project. Mentioned already flood prevention, but what can be done with the existing systems to optimize them, to make them more efficient, to reduce the energy that is necessary to run the pumps, to manage the system, what can be done there. And again, the fish and wildlife enhancement on the Bear River and the Cub River for that fact. If we can reduce the amount of sediment and nutrients that are reaching those two rivers, then that's increased benefit for everybody that's involved in the system. I'll turn the time over to Monique.
Thank you, Chad. That was a great overview of the project. I'm going to go over the NEPA process and kind of go into that into a little more depth. I am the environmental lead. My name is Monique Robbins, and I'm with Franson Civil Engineers. And just wanted to go through the timeline, because you might have questions about, where are we and where is this going from here? So I just want to re-emphasize that we are at the very beginning of the project. We are in the planning phase, and as Chad identified in the beginning, there's 3 different phases that will be funded. And right now we are funded just for the planning phase, which covers the NEPA compliance. And then after this process, and we have a document, we will go to the design phase and then the construction phase. So the NEPA compliance phase typically takes between 18 and 24 months. And I think that's pretty conservative. There's things that need to happen during that process, and we'll go through those in more depth now. And so the very part that we're at right now is initiating the environmental assessment. And part of that is developing the purpose and need, which Chad just went over, those different purposes that we can focus on during our assessment. And then this meeting right here is part of that initial environmental assessment with the scoping process and getting input from you guys on any suggestions or comments that you have. There is a 30-day comment period that we'll talk about more in a moment. But during that time, we would love to have positive comments, any concerns, ideas, suggestions that you have, so that we can incorporate any of those ideas into the project, because we are really at the very beginning phases of the project. The next steps that we'll be doing after this meeting is collecting data, collecting your comments, assessing those, and developing alternatives. And then we'll use those to identify and conduct surveys. And then we'll go through and analyze the alternatives. And part of that process is a design process, which is just 30% design. So it's kind of very preliminary beginning design aspects. And as part of that, we go through and determine resources. And there's a lot of resources that are analyzed and evaluated. And those could range from vegetation, wetlands, fish, wildlife, cultural resources, water quality, soils. So it ranges through that whole environmental aspect, so that we encompass all aspects of the environment and how it could affect those resources. So we use all of that information and we analyze it, and then we prepare a document. And that document goes back to what Chad explained in the beginning about those three processes, the watershed plan, the PL 566, and the PRNG, and how those all work together. And the document will be a watershed plan -EA or EIS. And we expect it to be a watershed plan EA. And the decision document then determines like what the goal, the outcome of the document will be. So the goal of the NEPA process is to determine the level of impact. And if there's no significant impacts, then the result is called a FONSI, and it's a finding of no significant impact. And that is a document that the NRCS will issue. And at that point, the NEPA compliance process is completed. And again, that could take up to 24 months. And part of those is the surveys that need to be done. They need to be taken care of at certain times of the year, and they just can take time. So again, we feel like the 18 to 24 months is a conservative amount of time in order to complete this. And that is about the NEPA process. Next slide, please. All right, so this is where you can get some information. This information is also on the website, potentially where you registered for this webinar. And it is at the fransoncivil.com Cub River Watershed EA website. And on there, my information will be on there. You can send me an email if that's the easiest for you, or there will be a form there where you can fill out the form and send that in to us as well. But any comment that you make needs to be written. You need to include your name and contact information, because we need to be able to respond to each and every comment and provide a response to you. And you have until December 18th. It's a 30-day process. Comment period, so you have until the 18th to submit those. I believe there will be a link at the end where you can click on if that makes it easier. You just want to get your comments in tonight. If you want any more information about the project, we'll publish this recording. So if you have neighbors or colleagues that would like to go through and watch it, they can go on our website and find the recording for this presentation, as well as information will be found at the NRCS website as well that's shown there. So that's how you can submit comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Monique. I think we'll open it up for questions now. People are welcome to go into the chat, ask questions. I'll pass them on to our team members. We'd love to answer them. Make our faces bigger for you.
Just what we need.
Exactly.
I like the small size.
And if there are no questions, we're still going to hang out here just until 7 o'clock. So feel free to take your time. I'm also going to publish. If you go on to the side of your screen where the chat is, but then click on the files button, you'll see a PDF file called Cub River Presentation Copy. You are welcome to download that. It's literally just a copy of the presentation that you watched. If you would like to read it, pass it on. Jake Sarago asked, will you share the survey website? I will. Okay, one moment, Jake. And then Ayman, I'm so sorry. I'm going to butcher your name. I care about you as a person. Ayman Nassar said, is the stormwater harvesting one of the scenarios to reduce the overland runoff?
So, if I understand the question correctly, as far as the term harvesting, the intent or what's being discussed or considered is what can be done to get that water to the natural drainages instead of bringing that water into the open canals, ditches, and then as that water continues to go south in the system, concentrating, increasing flows, increasing damage. And if there's ways or alternatives that we can look at spilling or dumping that water during flooding events and get it into the natural channels, get it off the fields out to the rivers, that's certainly something that we want to look at and consider. And don't allow it to concentrate. Don't bring it to the bottom, down into Lewiston, down into those fields further into the system. What can be done further up in the basin, the watershed area, to alleviate that runoff? Naaman, if I've answered that question, if you don't mind, maybe in the chat, just saying that answer the question, or if I need to give some additional information, certainly happy to answer that question. So.
I will wait just a moment if Eamon wants to respond. We have a couple other questions coming through. So if you are all good, Eamon, we will move on. Eamon says yes. Okay, next question. Anne Neville asked, so you know the CFS in the Cub?
Yeah, there's flow measurements, USGS flow data. We can look at that, pull that information up, certainly, and that is published information.
Perfect. And does that answer your question? Can you send a chat confirming? Wouldn't want to skip over you. We'll wait just a moment. Okay. We're going to move on. We have a next question. Another one from Jake Sarago. He asked, is the main problem being addressed with the project urban or agricultural flooding? Can someone please restate the problems being addressed with this project? Oh, and Anne says, yes, we answered her question.
Okay. So this certainly is more of a rural agricultural area. And so the flooding that we're seeing is more of an agricultural urban flooding than urban. Lewiston itself still is just a few blocks in each direction. It's not a real large urban area, and so it really is more of the agricultural flooding and in the runoff that we see from the fields. But because that water seems to concentrate and come into the town of Lewiston or the community of Lewiston, there is certainly some hopefully some benefit in ideas that can be looked at to help the residents of Lewiston as well and alleviate that water and not concentrate it and bring it into the city streets and flood those homes. And then restate the problems being addressed. Okay, so hopefully this slide, Jake, is what you're looking for, or helps address that. So really in the conversations, in the discussions with the sponsors, certainly flood control protection was involved. Are there measures or things that could be done to improve the agricultural water management, distribution, those types of measures? And then, anything that could be done from a recreational standpoint to give back to the public and providing that access, both on the water as well as the fish and wildlife habitat. and the recreation components that could come from an improved fishery and improved water quality there. So Jake, okay, it looks like you said yes. Thank you. I hope that answered your questions. Thank you.
Wonderful. Any other questions? Feel free to send them through. I can go back to a different slide if you would like to look at it again. If you have questions about the NEPA process, we have Monique here. We can just hang out. We're gonna chill. We have a full house tonight. I'm excited.
And certainly we said we'd be here till 7, but that doesn't mean everybody has to be here till 7.
Oh yes. So. If you would like to leave, feel free. What I'll even do. Are you ready for this? I am going to basically give you guys a pop-up, and this is the one time that it is going to be a good thing to click on the pop-up. And it's going to, if you would like to click on it, it's going to come up in a little red box in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. So you don't have to click on it if you don't want to. But here is a link, the link to our website. On there, you'll be able to click on links to view the maps again if you would like. You can click on the link to also submit a formal comment. I'm going to go back on there and add Monique's information if you would just like to email her directly. But she's going to be the one who directly sees these comments that if you submit them through the form. So there's that box. You should be seeing it on your screen.
Dirk made a statement or comment here. All the flooding certainly does affect the roads throughout the counties, both Franklin and Cache County, as that water seeps into the subgrade into the roads, certainly causes damage to those roads, and they're not cheap to maintain and replace. And so, good point, Dirk. Thank you.
Brandon Todd has submitted a question. He said, with PL 566, are there any concerns with crossing state borders?
So when we were looking at the application process as we were putting this project together, talking with both Utah, Idaho, in those discussions with Bruce in Idaho, and then Bronson Smart in Utah, there wasn't I guess any express concerns. That was something that we had asked about and questioned as well, Brandon. But what we were told that it should not be an issue, because the watershed, even though it crosses the boundaries, you're meeting the requirements of the funding. It is interstate. You can cross those state lines, is our understanding. So good question, good thought there.
Okay. Hopefully we answered your question, Brandon. Feel free to follow up in the chat if there's more you want to know. In the meantime, we have another question from Kelsey Bacon. They asked, are you looking to relieve... Oh, Brandon said very good. Thank you. Kelsey's question, are you looking to relieve the water in the soil in the area of East Canal where there seems to be a lot of water year-round?
I'm trying to think. I apologize. I don't know exactly where the East Canal is. I'm trying to remember where that's at. But I'll make a general statement that yes, the idea, the intent is to, what could we do to reduce the water that is held in the soil profile year round, whether it's water that's leaking out of the canals that's saturating. Many measures have already been, I know the on-farm, many of the farmers have already converted to sprinkler irrigation, improving the on-farm efficiency, which certainly helps that. But generally speaking, yes, we're trying to eliminate or reduce the amount of water in the soil profile so that in the springtime, that water can seep into the ground and has a place to go instead of running off and concentrating and creating the damage. So I apologize, Kelsey. I don't know exactly where the East Canal is.
She
I'm sure
followed up and she said it was
okay.
between the pumping stations.
Okay. And Jason just said the East Canal is the canal you referred to as the pump canal. Okay. Okay. Yes. We are looking and considering, and one of the measures, that would reduce that seepage or reduce the water in the soil profile is to look at piping that East Canal or the pump canal. And so certainly through this process, we have to look at all alternatives, all options. But that is an option that has been looked at and considered and will continue to be looked at as we go through this process. So.
Perfect. Kelsey, hopefully that information helps you. Bruce Sandoval followed up, by the way, and he said that he spoke with Watershed program staff at headquarters.
Okay.
There are no concerns between interstate.
Okay. That goes back to, Brandon Todd's question there.
Yeah. So. And then Jake Sarago asked another question. He said, sorry for so many questions, but no one else is asking questions. No worries at all. You're welcome to. He said, how frequent does flooding occur? Does the existing flooding of agricultural lands cause damage or affect farm work? Does the flooding in town damage property, or is it nuisance flooding?
So I don't know that I could say what the frequency is, how or project how often it's going to continue to happen in the future. But I know specifically 2011, 2017, were recent flooding events. We've got pictures from the city, from other sponsors, co-sponsors of the project, showing water in basements, in homes, in properties, and so it is getting to the point where it's more, I would say, more than a nuisance. In my conversations, that it is more than just nuisance water. It is actually causing damage. I know that I believe it's on Main Street. Several, well, actually, I don't know if it's Main Street. But one of the main drain lines to the Bear River, I believe in 2017, maybe it was 2018, flooded. It washed out culverts. It scoured and cut huge trenches that had to be backfilled. And I believe some of those still haven't been put back completely. In my conversations, that's my understanding is that it certainly is. It's happening frequently enough that it's causing significant damage. Let me scroll back down to make sure. It seems like I'm missing some of the other components of the question. Does the existing flooding of ag land cause damage? Okay. Does the flooding in the town damage property? So I believe I've answered those, Jake, hopefully to your satisfaction there. Certainly if I haven't, jump back on, let us know, and we can keep addressing those.
Cool. And then we have another question from Eamon Nassar. And then we'll get to you, Kelsey. Eamon asks, is it possible to inject the stormwater runoff into groundwater by constructing soak-away units? Soak-away.
Sorry, I was looking to see, I was reading some of the other chats, making sure I was keeping up on everything. Sorry about that, Eleanor. What was, Kelsey was asking again, what?
We have one from Amy, and then we'll go back to Kelsey.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
No worries. Aben asks, is it possible to inject the stormwater runoff into groundwater by constructing soak-away units?
Yeah. Certainly all options are being considered. I mean, that's really, the canvas is wide open at this point. All of those options will be looked at. My understanding of the soil profile is that somewhere in the neighborhood, and I think it varies, but maybe 8 to 10 feet down, maybe shallower in some areas, there's kind of a confining layer that creates a perched aquifer here. And so that's why a lot of this water isn't able to drain off, isn't able to percolate into the ground. And so if we looked at doing those measures, we would need to make sure that we're going deep enough that we could get below that confining layer to make sure that those measures were effective in the groundwater recharge, just so that we're not counteracting what we're trying to do. So that would certainly be looked at and considered as we're looking at all the different alternatives through the project. Yes.
Perfect. And then Kelsey made a comment. I invited her to submit it formally, and she would just like to be followed up. So I'm going to leave that information with you guys. Kelsey, if you have more questions, feel free to ask them. Just note you will be followed up with, I promise. Would anybody like to see, and Eamon says thanks, our engineer Monique has photos if anybody would like to see them. If you just want to show them, Monique, go ahead and share your screen.
So I think it might be easier, Eleanor, if you or Chad are able to pull those up, just because I'm using a remote.
Okay.
Access.
Yeah. Do you want to do it, Chad?
Yeah, I can. Let me jump on here and I can pull those up. Jimmy, just 1 minute. So Kelsey was asking about the property. I guess generally I'd say, Kelsey, I don't know. In past projects, not knowing your property specifically, in past projects, they have tried to reclaim those lands. I know in some areas that's the case. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. If there may be one alternative that we look at that leaves the canal open, that it continues to accept that storm water, but we improve places where it can spill and we can get it out. Don't let it run in the canal quite so long. So I don't know. It's certainly a possibility, but to answer your question specifically right now, I think it's just too early in the process to know. But we will follow up and continue to look at that, and certainly appreciate the comment and the question there, and we'll look into that. Let me see if I can pull up some of those photos here real quick.
I just think it helps to have a visual sometimes, and if they can see areas that have flooded in the past. While he's looking, Kelsey, do we have your contact information? I just want to make sure that we have a way to reach you.
If you registered for this meeting, then you should have given your contact information.
Okay.
Kelsey, if you used that last minute link, will you go ahead and private message me your contact information and I'll get it stored away? Kelsey said that they submitted it. Okay.
Great.
Yeah, I thought we had seen that comment. So.
Okay. While Chad is pulling up photos, do we have any other questions? We have about 10 minutes left until 7 o'clock. But like I said, this is going to be available afterwards, and you're welcome to continue to send in questions to Monique. She'll be happy to answer them. But we will hang out. Chad pulls up those photos. Pictures worth 1,000 words, right?
Do you see those photos now, Eleanor and Monique? Are they up?
They are.
Yes.
Okay. To be honest, I don't know specifically where each of these were taken, but these were some of the photos that were shared with us. Let me see if I can scroll through here. Why is it not?
I apologize, Kelsey.
We apologize, Kelsey. I was about to message you.
We all need some humor.
Let's see. There we go. Let's scroll through here. Okay, so some flooding. It looks like just in front of a home there. Oops, went a little too quick there. Sorry about that. Let me go back. flood in. I believe this is a residence. You can see, I don't know, anywhere between maybe 6 inches to a foot, maybe in that home there. Again, water coming up to home. Back to the comment, that might be more nuisance water right there. That's not actually in that home, although depending on how long it's there and if there's a basement of that home, certainly could eventually go into the home. So these are some of the pictures that were shared with us from the flooding. Why not go have a little fun? We've already got some recreational activity occurring from the project. So right downtown Lewiston there. So just some examples of what has taken place and some of the damage in the past. Damage, erosion damage here, existing culverts running off fields, those types of things. So I believe that's about all of the photos. So I'll go ahead and close those and we'll go back to the presentation.
Okay, we're back. As I said, if anybody would like for me to go back to a specific slide, I can. I'm glad I was able to make you laugh, Kelsey. That's certainly better than the alternative. Okay, we have about 7-ish minutes left. You're welcome to ask questions. Like I said, our website, that page is going to remain on there for the 30 days. We'll put this video up. Thank you so much for joining us. If you would like to head on out. We appreciate it. If you wanted to really quick, also, if you wanted to just send some quick feedback about how this experience was, like I said, we're adjusting to this digital format. Obviously, if you have questions about this project, send those in first. But if you have comments, if this worked for you, if it didn't, if you struggled, I know we struggled a little bit with Bruce in the beginning. What I can do, Monique has suggested that I pull up our website, and I can. So this is our website. If you go up, this is our homepage. Nice, lovely, some water. Up here in the top-hand corner, there's the Cub River Watershed EA.
And if your screen is not full, it might not show that, because I've had that before. So make sure your screen is full in your monitor, and then you'll see that.
Yeah, and we tried to make it easy-ish to get to. So you just do francincivil.com/cub-river-watershed-EA. On this, we have obviously the meeting info, which will now be replaced with the recording of this meeting. There's this survey that if you want to fill out, we can add you basically to our mailing list, and we can keep you updated on this project as it continues, as design decisions are made, as comments are reviewed, and stuff like that. We've summarized our project purpose and need right here. And then if you click on this link, you can look at the maps that were just shown in this presentation. And then there's the formal comment submission form. Right now, just looks like this. Make sure and include your contact information. And like I said, I'll be adding Monique's email right here. You're happy to do that. We encourage it. That's our website. That's how it's happening right now. So let me know if there's any more questions. We're getting generally good answers about the webinar. I'm glad. That's good, right?
I'll just make one other comment. On the NEPA process, there will be another public meeting after the draft EA is published. So it goes through a series of reviews, and NRCS takes a look at it. But when it's ready to go out to the public, there will be another meeting for that, and we will publish that information on this website, as well as notify anyone that we have contact information so that you'll be notified of that meeting as well. But it won't be for a while, maybe a year. So.
Yep.
Want to make sure we get this right. Beautiful. Okay. I'll go back to this. This is what Monique was talking about. just now. This is a process. Jake asked, what do the flood control points represent on the map?
Yeah, so the blue maps, Jake, or the blue dots, why don't you go up 2 more, Eleanor, because it shows the bigger map there. Those were just some areas that in our conversations had kind of been identified. Is there maybe a culvert that is there already that could be upsized? Is this a point where the water could be spilled out of the canal and into natural drainages? And so some of the sponsors, co-sponsors had some maps, had some plans and some ideas of what could be done already. And so what we've done is try to incorporate some of those thoughts already. Certainly this is not all inclusive. As we're just getting started, I'm certain that there's going to be more areas that will need to be looked at, kind of prioritized and ranked. But these were areas that were identified through the initial scoping and conversations. And so we wanted to show that there's some areas that are already being considered, looked at, that came forward through the application process that have already been thought about. So that's what those blue dots represent. And we hope that we will identify other areas and expand that and see what else we can do.
Yes, thank you, Brett. Okay, we're coming up on time. Last second questions are encouraged. And then we'll call it good for the evening. You're welcome to continue submitting questions and comments. Thank you, Kelsey. I hope you have an excellent evening, sir. Edith Simmons asked, good night, Jake. Edith Simmons asked, if you have a flood control drainage system that is working and in place, can you opt out of this project?
Certainly. Yeah, no, there's, we have just, seeking input, if identify areas of concern, areas of issues. If everything's working great, certainly could opt out. I would say, make one general comment. This program pays for flood control at 100%, and so that's not to say let's go make something up. But if there are needs and deficiencies, let's at least look at them, consider them. There's not a I would say there's very little risk, if any risk, to a drainage district to participate. Obviously, some of your time involvement, but certainly not going to force anybody to participate and be involved by any means.
And we have hit time. It is 7:00. 30 seconds for last minute questions, and then we'll sign out. Thank you guys so much for coming. We appreciate it. We appreciate your comments and your input. We care about this. We want to get this right for you, right? Chris, Karen, thank you so much. Have a lovely evening, Chris.
Hopefully answered Edith's question. I haven't seen a response back from her that addressed that, but Edith, if I didn't, reach out to us. We're certainly happy to talk, and let's open that dialogue and make sure we stay in touch. So,
perfect. Okay, I think we'll call it.
Yep.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.